Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Winding Road Podcast. It's a pretty nice darn day out here on the old Winding Road. And, it's spring. It's spring here on the Winding Road as of this recording. And springtime, like to do stuff outside, go places. Went to wrestling show, baseball game the other day, and up in the area where there was a zoo. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go to the zoo. And while at the zoo, such mixed feelings about going to the zoo. Number one, love it for the reason of reverence that I always talk about on here, just having reverence for everything that's living, everything that exists, and just so much. I got so much love for different animals and reptiles and any of it, man, any and all of it. So much love, so much reverence for it. So going there and seeing some of these things, like all the different snakes and the monkeys, the apes, the bears, all that stuff. So incredible, and just like wow, all this different stuff exists, and I look at the different animals, and I'm like, it's just so interesting to me how, a lot of, like, especially after going and looking at the snakes, and then I'm like looking at the giraffes or other things with long necks, and it's like, wow, their neck kind of looks like a snake. Or then you look at other stuff and their tails, their tails kind of wiggle around like a snake. And it's just interesting how we have all these different species, yet there are similarities between a lot of them. And it just, this goes to speaking about, just about creation. And just about everything that we have here on this earth is this is fascinating to me, and it's fascinating, and I just every day is with awe and wonder. And so I go look at some of these things, these pit vipers and all these different things, and I'm just like incredibly blown away. But then I'm also sad. It also makes me very, very sad, and I like, should I even be going and supporting this? Because I look at these snakes and these little tiny cages they're in. I don't know if cage is the right word, but I'll go with that. Or there are these monkeys. I forget what kind of monkeys they were, but they're in this indoor thing, and it's just like it's like they make it look like rocks, but it's not even very big at all. And there's like 7, 8, 9, 10 of them in there, and I'm just thinking, wow, man, like they're imprisoned. They're imprisoned. And it's just like, it feels wrong. It feels very, very wrong, You got people, that go to prison. Obviously, they have to be there because they did bad stuff, and we don't want them out in society, being a danger to society, all that stuff. Like, I mean, that makes sense for the most part, but his animals didn't do anything. They didn't do anything to deserve to be imprisoned. And it especially hit me hard whenever we get over to the, it was one of the great apes, silverback ape. And we're up top, like a bridge type of thing, looking through the netting down at it. And it's hiding below this rock. And I zoom in on it with my camera, and you could just see how upset it is, how my heart broke for it, because the guy's up there calling for it above it, trying to get him to come eat, and it was just like it was mad. I don't know why, obviously, but part of me thinks, just because it's not free. And, you could argue, yeah, well, they got a good life, they don't have to worry about any predators or anything like that, but it's just not natural. And seeing them in their, not their natural habitat being in the cage, it breaks my heart, man. And it's just like, because I think everything in there has souls. And I've been reading articles about different animals, how like they're proving more and more that these things do have consciousness. Obviously it might be a little bit different from ours, but they have consciousness. And I'm reading a lot of stuff too about I talk about the near-death experiences on here a lot, and and these people going in there and saying how we choose the life that we choose on this earth, and maybe like if we're not ready for being a human, maybe we would be an animal, and things like that. And if we are, if that's the case, it's like, wow, if we're like just trapped in this little small cage, the snake, I see the snake in this cage, it's like totally laid out in that cage, and it's like from side to side, it's got no room to slither around, to explore things. Like, it just has to be incredibly boring for them. And you can be like, and again, you'd argue like, okay, but really, like, what consciousness do they have? Like, what do they really know? Like, is it really making them sad? Like, yeah, I think it is. I really think that is. I don't think you can tell necessarily in the snakes and stuff so much, but I guess at least the gorillas and other, the cheetahs and things like that, they got places to move around and everything. But man, it's just got to be so boring for them, and I just my heart breaks for them. So it's just like, and I know zoos do a lot of good things, trying to rehabilitate these animals, and these animals are critically endangered and things like that. So if we put them out in the wild, might they become extinct and everything like that? I think we should be trying to, if the ones that are endangered, I don't know, a lot of these places probably do that, but that are critically endangered, like they should be in there breeding them and then putting them into the wild. I just think it's sad that to see these snakes in there, and then they're either they're captured from the wild, or they're born into the zoo, and that's like the only life that they know, because they're born into it. Like, I think it's probably worse with the animals that get captured and then put into a zoo. Like, this, I don't know, to me that seems horrible. That seems horrible. But if you capture something that's endangered, and you try to grow it, make new ones of it, so that they can get them out of that critically endangered spot, where they can flourish again, when you release them into the wild, it's like, okay, but cool, is it really a good idea to release these venomous snakes into the wild? Yeah, I think it's fine, as long as you're doing it where there aren't, a shitload of people. But there's dangers out here in the world every day with bears and everything, like, but for the most part, if we as humans don't mess with them, they don't mess with us, man. We just leave them alone. We can see them and appreciate them, but leave them alone. Let them live out their lives as naturally as possible. And it was just very, very interesting to me. You see, but then again, I see like this, I don't know what it was, I think it was an otter or something like that. It was just swimming around in circles, and it was like it was coming over to us and just putting on a show for us. It's like, okay, well, maybe that animal's like accepted the fact and that it's in there, and it's gonna bring joy to these humans by keep swimming around and putting on a show for us. And I understand, and people probably think that's stupid and silly, and again, that these things, are just animals and they don't have a consciousness and a soul, and that's fine. Maybe not. I tend to believe that they do, and so for me, it makes it pretty disturbing that they are locked in there and are in these little small habitats, But like, I don't know, I'm just guilty of it as anybody else. I've had fish inside a little aquarium and stuff like that. I know other people that have snakes inside things, or frogs, and it's like, like, I'm not judging them. I'm not. It's I go over there and think, oh, hey, cool, man, this is so cool that you have this. That's exciting. But so that's a part of me that's like really happy about it, and then there's another part of me that my heart breaks for it. You know, and it's weird, just in general, kind of shift and pivot here now. It's just weird to me, like I don't know, it's weird being the observer. It's weird being the observer, because I'm always trying to think about the other side of things, and you know, how it's like, wow, how can you feel so strongly about one side of thing, and then you flip the coin over, and then you're so strong, you know, you feel so strongly about that as well. And I don't know, I do feel like I'm kind of a outlier in that, but I mean, I don't know, that's just the life that I was given, or the life that I chose, perhaps, in the spiritual world, chose to come here and be an observer, you know. But it's so strange, because it's like, yeah, whenever stuff's going on in my own life, it's like, yeah, it's happening to me, but yet I feel like, you know, I do feel like I'm sometimes just like looking at my own life, and like things happen, you say, do things, and it's like, yes, I'm doing them, but I also have the quote unquote mindfulness of like, yeah, but I'm also like, it feels like I'm a step away from it, you know, like even like, you know, dealing with relationships and everything like that. You know, you talk with people, you know, and they get upset, and you know, and start crying and stuff, and it's like, and I'm just sitting there like, okay, all right, you know, like I'm feeling it, like you know, a lot of times stuff is happening, I'm getting sad about it too, but I'm not showing that emotion, you know, like, is that emotional awareness? I guess a lot of it could be, you know, but at the same time, and a lot of it I think is good, that I'm able to kind of step back and, you know, observe it, what's happening to myself. But at the same time, you know, there's like that disconnect kind of alarms you sometimes. It alarms me sometimes, like how, like, you know, I should be more passionate about it. And there's that fine line, you know, of being passionate about things, but being obsessive about things. Like, if you're obsessed about it, I don't necessarily think that's a good thing. I think being passionate about things is a good thing, but the obsession, I think, blinds us from the other possibilities of what's going on. You know, if we get so obsessed, you know, you look at politics, for example, you know, you get so obsessed and passionate about a certain candidate that then you don't want to hear anything that the other side has to say. And I think it's a big problem with society in general, you know, just getting too passionate, to leading to that obsession. And then you're just, you know, caught in like this echo chamber, you know, where if you're like posting stuff online about, you know, what you believe. And I get it, like, you know, that's what you think is right. That's how you think the world's going to be a better place. And a lot of it is kind of clear as day. And some of this stuff, it's like, yeah, why the hell would you people think that this is the right thing to do, you know? And if you believe in like the biblical stuff, you know, it's like, it says come a time where, you know, wrong is right and right is wrong. And I do see and sense a lot of that going on right now. And, you know, I've talked about on here before, like, I've gotten to a place where I have 100% faith, but at the same time, yet I'm still very open-minded, and I don't even know how to begin to explain that to anyone. I just think the best way that I can explain that is I just have the realization, you know, that everybody's different, man. And the way we're brought up, you know, has a lot to do with it, for sure. You know, if we're brought up in this certain culture and they hand you this book and say, hey, this is the way. And, you know, as children, we're very susceptible to those things. And we're going to think that that's the way because that's the way that we were taught. And it's hard then as adults to think of life as any other way than what we were taught to believe. And a lot of people go on living that same way. And I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that that's what happens a lot of the times. And that's how we, get caught up in the one-way thinking, and it's like, yeah, it's just like the trap of, living in the echo chambers. They say, like, if you think you're so right, and then you're just, you're just going to keep spouting off how right you are, and you're not going to even be interested at all in what somebody that thinks differently than you has to say, because you're just too caught up in what you believe, and that's why I like talking to people about the way, why, it's like, okay, why in this, it's asking questions, man. To me, that's how we learn, is we gotta ask questions. It seems so simple, but yet sometimes it's so hard for us to do. But like, I just, rather than, just think, all right, no, you're wrong, I'm right. I'm going to ask questions, not necessarily so that my mind is changed on anything, but just so that I can have a better understanding of someone else's perspective. And if I'm able to ask questions and understand their perspective a little bit better, then I think that helps me understand humanity better, and does help get me to a place where it's like, all right, cool, man. Like, even though you think that, like, even though I think it's completely wrong, thank you. I guess I understand a little bit better now, because I was able to ask questions just about why, And there's a lot of questions that I would love to ask people, but they probably get way too offended if I ask them a question about it. So then it's like, I don't even bother asking. And I don't know if that's good or bad, but it's like, you got to pick and choose, and you got to kind of read the room, quote unquote. And, it's like, all right, is this a good idea for me to ask this right now? Or is it just going to lead them to being extremely upset? And it really does, the reading the room thing really does, like, come to back, like, all right, what kind of spot is this person already getting upset with me about things? Are they already spouting off and, getting worked up about something, and, spouting off why this is right and why the other thing's wrong? Or are they in a place where it's like, okay, everything's kind of cool, kind of tranquil right now? Do you want to disturb that tranquility? That's the question you have to ask yourself a lot of the times. It's like, some things are definitely better off unsaid or unasked, for sure. And it's a fine line to try to figure out, and you're going to get it right sometimes, and you're going to get it wrong other times. But it's just so fascinating and so interesting to me, the different dynamics of everything, really. And I do think that generally being inquisitive and just but a lot of people don't have that heart to they're just not in a place of their being. May not even happen in this lifetime. It doesn't a lot of the times, where they can even get to a point where they even care enough to ask another question, because they think that the other side of things is just completely wrong, and they're not interested in that. And there's definitely something to be said about living a simpler life, and I don't know. It's interesting, and I don't judge that way of thinking either. Keeping things simple, and hey, I believe this, and this is what I believe, and I think as long as people aren't like forcing their beliefs on other people, and obviously that happens a lot too. But if they're not, and they're just living their way, and they hey, this is right, and this is the way I'm going to go about living, then I think that's okay for the most part, but nothing's black and white really. I don't think too much. I mean, I guess there are some things that are pretty clear in our black and white, but we live in a colorful world, don't we? So there's just different dynamics to everything, and for me, like just asking questions and trying to learn and gain knowledge and figure out better ways to be, to better help me have joy all the time, and I really think it just goes back to not taking things personally, like, and I've come along. I still got a long way to go in that, but I've also come a very long way in not taking things personally, because a lot of times, the attacks on you are really not a representation of yourself, maybe not. They're more a representation of possibly what the other person is going through, and if they're attacking you, then they're just letting that out because maybe that's how they feel about themselves, So, I guess that's about really all I have to say today on the winding road. But should we or shouldn't we go to the zoo? It's kind of why I clicked on here, just because I was thinking about that. To me, I guess as long as I go and have that reverence for them, and I don't know, is it weird to pray for animals? Is it weird to pray, go in there and pray for them to have peace? I don't think so. I think it's okay to pray for everything. I do. I really, really do. So I think as long as I go in there and have reverence for it and understand that it's not necessarily the best, but that I appreciate it and just appreciate the creation of it all. And then, I mean, I didn't support it. I didn't pay. I guess I bought a drink or something, so I'm supporting it. But and it's just like, I'm not going to beat myself up for it either. I'm going to have that understanding of maybe it's not the best, but I went and I had reverence for him and I was thirsty, so I got a drink, like I'm not going to beat myself up at all for it. The great book says, worrying and anxiety doesn't add a single second to our lives. It does not add a single second into our lives. In fact, it probably shortens it. The worrying and stuff. This guy's a 111-year-old man. He says, and I like reading about that, and how did he get that way? It goes back to asking questions. And number one thing was always doing your best. That goes back to one of the 4 agreements. Another thing was moderation and just not worrying about things and just letting things go and letting things be. And that's the way that I try to live. And I'm not on here trying to tell anybody how to live. I'm just on here expressing my thoughts. Take of it what you want. I'm me, you're you. I do believe we are each other. Love, inspire, unite. God bless.